Vaidya, what is the big takeaway over here? Is this an indicator of some sort of resolution having been arrived at?
Vishnu, firstly, the court has already reserved its verdict. During the course of the argument, Mr. Rajiv Dhawan, he is also represented Sunni Waqf Board. He completely argued against whatever the agreement which is we are showing it now said. So it seems to be a little contrary, but of course it's true that the mediation panel headed by Justice Khalifullah has submitted this report today morning in the court, but Chief Justice did not make any mention of this. Basically, the mediation panel expects the Supreme Court to take up this issue. And one interesting point which the Waqf Board basically says that government can take over the land and Ram temple can be built, but some other place can be given to the Waqf Board so that mosque can be built. Whether it has been agreed by all or not, because the participants in the which is called the report submitted to the court is Nirvani Akhada, which is not Nirmoy Akhada, secondly Sunni Waqf Board, and these are the main two parties, and Shankaracharya of Dwarka. So the other parties, they are not participating, so this cannot be said as a consensus thing. But anyway, we don't know what the court will do, but anyway, since court has reserved its verdict, this may be reflected in the judgment, or court may even ask, after going through the report, the versions or the views of the other parties also. These are too speculative, we don't know anything what will happen, but only we can say this report has been submitted, now it's up to the court.
Vaidya, let's just look at what we do know. Firstly, the role of the mediation panel, because what has been suggested now, this source-based information seems to, in a sense, contradict what we had heard earlier on, that mediation efforts did not work out, there was no resolution which was in the offing, but now there are very specific guidelines which indicate that there is some sort of agreement which has been arrived at. So why this disparity?
See, this agreement is, has been arrived, but what are the parties who have participated in the meeting? Sunni Waqf Board and Shankaracharya of Dwarka and Nirvani Akhada. These are the three parties, whereas the other parties, take the case of Ram Lalla, and Hindu Mahasabha also is there in the agreement, but Hindu Mahasabha has already two factions. And Ram Lalla lawyers have openly said in the court they are not for mediation. So after the first mediation failed, only the day-to-day hearing started on 6th of August. So in between, some parties approached the mediation panel for reviving the mediation. Court said you can go ahead, but the hearing will continue. So now it's for the court to see what will happen. But you are rightly saying that one point which Sunni Waqf Board is saying that they are ready to hand over the land to the government and Ram temple can be built. That's quite a, contradictory stand which has been taken by
for many in this country would be the resolution. But I think the key point that you're mentioning, Vaidyanathan, is that this mediation report doesn't necessarily reflect the perspectives of all of the parties which have become one with this dispute, and therefore it may not be a complete report in terms of representing all views. Obviously how the 5-judge panel of the Supreme Court looks at it is something else.